first of the 50 stages. But there is still a long way to go, and the Swede is a determined driver. The man favourite to win the event is Hannu Mikkola, who has stayed loyal to Ford despite the absence of an official works team from the rally scene. In the Eton Yale Escort, he has early problems through the Whitton Castle Leisure Centre stage, and ignition failure causes him to lose 1 minute on that section. Another ex-Ford Works driver, Ari Vatanen, has also stayed loyal to the mark, and like his fellow countryman Mikkola, has an Escort, this one in Rothman's livery. Russell Brooks has moved to Talbot for this year and is having his first international drive in the Lotus engine Sunbeam. He gets off to a relatively slow start on the event, but soon speeds up and was lying second when he retired with ignition troubles. Ex-Ford stalwart Roger Clark is giving his V8 engine Triumph TR7 its first forest outing. Young Malcolm Wilson has stayed faithful to Escorts and is again displaying his own particular brand of fast driving. Teammate to Wilson last year was Finn Henry Toivonen, but who, like Brooks this year, has changed to the latest rally offering from Talbot. Toivonen already has one win under his belt in his home country's Arctic Rally and has a busy programme ahead of him, including several World Championship rallies. Top Scottish driver Jimmy McRae leads the Vauxhall team in his Chevette. Toyota have made a return to the British rally scene, and the man chosen to spearhead their attack is New Zealander Alan Carter. Carter has more than proved his ability since coming to live in this country by winning the Group 1 section of last year's Sedan Championship. He now has to get used to the much more powerful Group 4 Celica. Andy Dawson is setting a fair pace in his Datsun Violet. So far, the sensation of the rally is Willie Rutherford, already in the top 3 after only 5 stages. Great things were expected from current World Championship leader Anders Kullang in the brand new Opel Ascona 400. He set the early pace by beating Mikkola by 3 seconds on the first stage, but disaster strikes on the second, and he coasts through to retirement. Someone else with early problems is Malcolm Wilson.
What's centralising, Malcolm?
I think we just knocked the track out on the first stage, and we haven't had time to rectify it yet.
Is that what caused the headlights to look a bit skew-whiff as well?
We hit a big puddle of water and it just took off into the hedge. So it done a bit of a damage, but it's repairable.
Didn't lose you much time?
Just about 20 seconds or so, something like that.
How's it been going otherwise?
All right, very well. Very wet and slippery, but OK.
You managed to make up the 20 seconds?
No, not yet. There's a long way to go.
The stage has been very soft and wet.
When it's like that, some of the drivers apparently have been reading off a map and others haven't. Well, what does Jim do for you? Did you? Well,
where it's helpful, he tries, but, you know, when it's a strange road, then you really are relying on sometimes very old maps and not to be recommended.
This year's rally is sponsored by Atcost and West Park, who came along at the 11th hour to save the event from cancellation. Winners of the rally for the last 2 years, Hannu Mikkola and Arnie Hertz, lead the cars away from the City Hall in Cardiff as they head north for the Welsh forests. Mikkola is firm favourite to make it a hat-trick, but on the very first special stage through Brecon Forest, he makes an uncharacteristic mistake, and it's another Escort driven by fellow Finn Ari Vatanen who flies through to take an immediate lead. Bad luck has plagued the Saab team in British events this year, and Stig Blomqvist in the Whispering Turbo is looking for a good placing. Russell Brooks in the Talbot Sunbeam is also looking to open his account in this year's Open Rally Championship. Swede Anders Kullang in the Opel Ascona 400 is equal second fastest on this first stage behind Vatanen. On the same time as Kullang is England's answer to the Flying Finns, Malcolm Wilson in his Escort. Championship leader Jimmy McRae is hoping to repeat his Circuit of Ireland victory in the Vauxhall Chevette. Roger Clark has won the Welsh no less than 4 times and is hoping to change his recent bad luck in the TR7. The Toyota Celica is a large car and in Brecon Forest seems quite a handful for New Zealander Alan Carter. Matching the times of Kullang and Wilson is Finn Henry Toivonen, putting himself into equal second. Dust is the big problem in the dry Welsh forests, and by running first, Mikkola is obviously at a distinct advantage. Vartanen's time suffers from Mikkela's dust, and it drops him to second behind his fellow Finn. Blomqvist's Saab prefers conditions that are much wetter, but the skillful Swede is still well up in the top 10. All the drivers are suffering badly as the lack of breeze fails to shift the hanging dust, and Brooks is a relatively lowly 7th. Kullang cuts the corner in an effort to gain valuable seconds. Malcolm Wilson is driving superbly and is fastest here in Kerry Forest. McRae's engine is down on power, and the Scot is struggling, shortly to retire. The dust problem is relieved for a while as the cars compete over the tarmac miniature ranges of Epiant. Mikkela is still trailing Vartanen in a two-cornered fight for the lead. Brooks is a renowned Epiant expert, and he is fastest by no less than 15 seconds. Number 13 has not been unlucky for Bryce, who is now in 7th spot. Wilson had electrical problems during the night and is now fighting his way back up the field. Clark is still 8th. And Patrick continues to astound the opposition. He's 6th ahead of Bryce and Clark. But for Blomqvist, time is running out. His steady drive up into 5th place is soon to end with drive shaft failure. Back into the forests and the dust. Mikkela is determined to keep in front of the pack, but there is nothing he can do to match Vartanen's pace. Toivonen is in the same situation as Mikkela, having to be content with 4th spot behind Brooks. Tim Bryce with co-driver Phil Short are 3rd fastest here in Crochan Forest, but storming his way through this stage is Wilson, whose fastest time beats Vartanen's by 4 seconds. Kullang has worked his way into 7th spot, and it looks as though the fortunes of the British Oval team are changing. Carter's Toyota is just inside the top 10. With headlights blazing, Clark follows hot on the trail of the 5 men in front of him. Relief again from the dust as the rally moves back onto Epiant, with the order remaining Vartanen, Mikkela, Brooks and Toivonen. Wilson still has a lot to make up.
Here, the man that many of you will have been looking at all through the year on the grandstand opening titles, because it's Malcolm Wilson who ended this event last year upside down on the roof of his Escort, which then burst into flames when he finished the course. So he had a pretty exciting time at Escadapid in 1979. And he's the youngest driver here today, 24 years old, this Cumbrian. And very much the British rally man of the future. He's got a lot of success behind him already. British rally champion in 1978, won 2 major rallies last year. And he's now set up his own team with the right sort of backing to compete in this year's British Championship events and hopefully to get some continental experience, which of course he needs to become a world-class top rally driver. Malcolm Wilson, 1.8 seconds on the split, slower than Per Eklund, so that would put him 4th fastest to that point. Malcolm Wilson is from Workington, is going extremely well. Ford Escort, some 240, 250 brake horsepower under his right foot. Lost a lot of weight himself, Malcolm, just come out of hospital after an operation, and he's still not fully recovered. He drove in the Circuit of Ireland and it was a very, very grueling event for him. Into the last bend, and the clock stops at 1:36.9, which is 5th fastest. Malcolm Wilson.
Congratulations on the Acropolis victory.
Thank you, thank you.
3 in a row on this one.
Well, I take it as an individual rally, but I don't mind if, 3 in a row comes out.
Is it going to be another battle between you and Hanu?
Yeah, I would think so, yes, and will be added by some English drivers as well, Malcolm and the rest of the boys.
Vartanen has trouble settling in. Maybe he'd rather be at home with his new baby daughter, born just before the Welsh Rally a month ago. It's vital Jimmy McRae gets a good result in dealer team Vauxhall Chevette to keep his sedan championship chances alive. There are a trio of Triumph TR V8s out on the Scottish, headed by the determined Briton Tony Pond. Henry Toivonen is as brave as ever, but has already punctured a rear tyre on the Talbot Sunbeam Lotus. Malcolm Wilson, with the experienced Terry Harriman, who used to co-drive for Paddy Hopkirk, is already showing the speed to challenge the 2 top Finns. As competitors head across southern Scotland with a tough night's rallying ahead, Mikkola has already opened out a slim lead. Blomqvist's Saab rears up as Stig clips a rock. Look at that punctured tyre, just the situation you want to avoid in such a fast front-drive rally car. Because of Blomqvist's misfortune, fellow Swede Anders Kullang and his Opel Ascona 400 easily catches the stricken Saab through the 6-mile Kirotri stage near Newton Stewart. Brooks has been looking a bit too closely at the splendid Scottish scenery too. Already the front of his Talbot looks a little second-hand. The steering is also damaged and he has to struggle to the end of the stage before his service crew can repair it. There's drama in store for McRae too, as his gearbox suddenly jams in first gear, and he also has to limp to the end of the stage. Malcolm Wilson is both supremely skillful and a little lucky. He just brushes the rock that punctured Blomqvist's tyre, and it doesn't affect his time. Fortune and Toivonen don't go together on this event. A spark from the rear, and there's a lot of boiling brake fluid smoking up from the back of the Talbot. Its rear brakes damaged by another puncture, and by the time the rally reaches Edinburgh for the breakfast halt, he's well down the field. At Edinburgh, Mikkola leads Vartanen by nearly 2 minutes.
Morning, Harry.
Morning, morning.
What sort of a night have you had?
Slow night?
What do you mean?
Well, driving slowly.
You're still second, though?
Yes, just about. But they're catching up fast, so I don't know how long we will be second.
Why have you been driving slowly?
It's a holiday time for me, not a rallying time.
But it's not been a holiday for Malcolm Wilson, who arrives at Edinburgh having felt every mile of the long, tough night after driving superbly.
It's very hard, I don't know why. It seems a lot harder than the Welsh, and we've just done the same amount. I can't understand it.
Maybe it's because it's been a bit wetter, is that it?
I think it's spread out as well. You've been sort of stopping and starting, whereas you kept going all the time on the Welsh. It's probably that.
You got any problems during the night?
No, not really. No, nothing.
So it's still fairly...
Yeah, we keep taking a few seconds off Kullang, then he keeps taking a few back off us, so it's a nice little battle going, really.
After being defeated by Vartanen on the previous championship round, the Welsh, Mikkola is in true Flying Finn form. His talent and David Sutton's superb preparation of the Eton-Yale escort form a class of their own in Scotland. Kulang is fighting for every second with Wilson, who's now relegated the Opal to 4th place. Spectacular as ever, Blomqvist holds the big turbocharged Saab through the 20th Craigvinian stage in 7th place. But suddenly he comes to an abrupt halt.
Come on.
Meanwhile, Vatanen is now matching Mikkela's pace and desperately trying to slash that 2-minute deficit. Blomqvist uses the Saab shortwave radio to summon assistance as Vatanen speeds by and time ticks away for the stricken Saab. Blomqvist makes contact with his service crew and tells them what he suspects has happened. Pond is now a secure 6th in the best of the triumphs.
What's happened? I don't know, but I think it's a half shaft broke.
Russell Brooks is enjoying a spirited run in the Talbot now, chasing after top British honours. Disregarding Mikkela's performance, British drivers are more competitive than ever on this event. Wilson is in absolutely brilliant form now, in 3rd place and chasing Vatanen hard. At last, a British driver is the Flying Finns. Former racer turned rallyist, has been going well, lying 8th at Edinburgh. But on the Craigvinian stage, where Blomqvist is in trouble, a puff of smoke from the John Taylor-managed escort signifies disaster. And he coasts into the now popular parking bay, where Bjorn Cederberg is in a helpful mood.
Well, we can park at least 3 more here.
A rod through the block. We put a rod through the block by the looks of things. The oil pressure's been up and down all day. And unfortunately, just coming up the hill there, something's let go in the engine, and that's it, we're out.
Meanwhile, ahead of all the drama, the leading crews are heading for the heart of the Highlands and the end of the first leg. Mikkela still leads with Vatanen 2nd, but the talking point over the evening haggis is the sensational performance of Britain's Malcolm Wilson.
With third, about 20-odd seconds behind Harry now, I think.
So it's a battle between you and Harry rather than you and Kulang now,
yes.
Is it? Are you sort of hauling him in or what?
No, well, the last stage we had a puncher, which we dropped a bit of time to him, but before that we were only 15 seconds behind. So we'll have to see what happens tomorrow.
Looks like a very interesting day, as we said earlier.
It's going to be fun, it's going to be exciting.
The second leg action starts not far from Fort William, with Ben Nevis in the background. This stage has special significance for Mikkela, for he crashed here last year whilst in the lead. This time he's 10 seconds slower than Vatanen, just to make sure. Vatanen is fastest from Mikkela and Wilson as he renews his assault on Mikkela's 2-minute lead. Inspired Wilson hurtles over the forest tracks in breathtaking speed. At last we have another Briton who looks capable of taking on the Finns in the way Roger Clark did. But tragedy lies ahead. In an enormous accident on stage 30, Inchnacardock Forest, his escort hits a culvert at speed. Wilson suffers 2 broken ankles. His co-driver is unhurt, but sadly Malcolm will be out of rallying for quite a while. With Wilson out, Kulang regains 3rd place in the smart Opel Ascona 400. Pond goes into 4th place despite this puncture and earlier troubles. Remarkably persistent performance. Now up into 5th place comes Scottish farmer Drew Gallagher, leading the Scottish Championship contenders in his X-Works Chevette HS. Worcestershire's Russell Brooks is now up to 6th, chasing Gallagher in his crinkled Talbot. Ivor Clark appears in another Talbot, one he prepares himself. He has just overtaken McRae's Chevette, Jimmy sportingly waving Ivor by as soon as the silver Vauxhall slowed with its front wheel puncture. McRae's championship chances look even grimmer. Donald Heggie is another Scot in a hurry with his recently rebodied escort, now 7th. Marathon expert Andrew Cowan is doing his usual tidy job in 8th position. Roger Clark in the 3rd TR7, pacing himself for a first finish. Close to Loch Ness, and Mikkela's unfussed display of speed continues. Vatanen still some 2 minutes behind as the stones rattle away from the underside of his escort. Kulang's 3rd, losing a little time here with another front wheel puncture. Pond is 4th and grappling sternly with the patriotically painted Triumph. Brooks is 6th, but this isn't his event. Eventually he's out on the penultimate test with engine failure. Clark too has his last-minute dramas, but this time he survives. Toivonen just never gives up trying. Up to 13th and still charging forward in fine style. Style is not McRae's forte on this one, but the Chevette scrabbles back on somehow. Privateer Ken Wood, driving an X-Works TR7, has even more trouble. Its spin is compounded by gear selection maladies. As the cars head back to Aviemore for a final overnight halt, the order of the 74 survivors is headed by Mikkela in front of Vatanen.
So, Harry, what sort of Scottish rally has it been on the whole then for you?
Well, to start with, I wasn't very interested in driving. I must confess that. I don't know why. Maybe the Acropolis was catching me out now, and but then yesterday I got it going a bit better.
And what about today then? You're just going to...
Yeah, cruising along today. I have a nice day now, pleasant.
So the tactic for today then, Hannah, is just to maintain...
Just to see how quickly Harry will drive and just to drive the same speed. So it's enough, I think.
He said he's pretty well settled for second. Have you come to some sort of agreement, or...?
Oh, I will see. You know, the first test I will see immediately which speed he will drive at. And if he's beating me, I will increase the speed. If he's slower than me, maybe I drive a little bit slower. You know, I will just have a look.
So it could be a bit more interesting than we at first thought then, possibly.
Oh, it depends on Harry very much.
So Mikkela's slowly. He finishes an unchallenged second and heads gratefully for home, a favourite for the championship. Poulang is sure of third now, Opel's best result in Britain with a rapidly improving contender.